Before we begin, thank you very much to a spy network of Bothans that survived long enough to provide for this channel. Many Bothans died to bring you this shout out, and I thank them very much for it. Star Wars references, rare for a Transformer channel, but here we are. Thank you very much for the support. I do appreciate it. Yeah, it's just that simple. If you want me to say something goofy, pitch in on Patreon. It's that easy. It's that easy. All right, so it's tier list time again. And speaking of Patreon, this is actually a request that, frankly, I've been putting off a little bit too long. There's a lot of requests I've been putting off too long, so I'm going to try and start churning through those. And we're going to do a tier list here for the Classics Transformers. Now, this request was weirdly specific because it was a tier list of Classics Transformer toys, including the repaints of the new molds. And it was a debate in my head about how far I actually wanted to go with this, because Classics is kind of an amalgamous blob of a bunch of different releases, and technically a lot of things are included in that. So here's what I decided. If it was released at retail under normal Classics style branding, it's included, with only a few exceptions. I have excluded the re-releases of Legends class Cybertron figures because, yeah, they just did one wave that's just re-releases. They did a reissue of Soundwave and a Masterpiece Starscream that were in Classics packaging. I am not including those. Those just feel lumped in and not designed for Classics. So I have excluded those. I've also excluded anything that could be seen as adjacent, like the BotCon figures that are meant to be an extension of what Classics was doing. I have ignored the movie 2007 Walmart exclusives that were designed with Classics in mind when they were originally concepted. I have also, what else did I exclude? I've excluded a bunch of Special Edition Universe that were like repaints of Classics. So basically, I tried to keep it as contained as possible. That left me with 30. Since I'm going to be talking about the mini-cons in like by group rather than individual ones, that leaves us with 30 to talk about, which is a really nice number for a tier list. So we are going to be going with our traditional grading system. At the top, it is Holy Grail, the best of the best. And then going down, the premium price, retail release, bargain bin, all the way down to the flea market. Please don't end up in the flea market. And we are going to start with Astro Train. This is a divisive one. I tend to like this toy a lot more than most. Yes, I know that shuttle mode looks chunky with the bullet train parts hanging off. Yes, I know the bullet train looks chunky with the back end being blocky. But I really, really like how this toy works as a transformation. Look at how overly complex a lot of triple changers are today. And then realize in Classics, we got a really nice, fun one with a clean transformation into all three modes. And he has something of a nice, unique look to him while still being very much G1 toy Astro Train. I think he's fun. I think the toy's a lot of fun. I would pay premium price for that. I have paid premium price for that. I have the Henkei one in the animation colors, and it's a lot of fun. I like that toy a lot. This is the Legends class Bumblebee, repainted from Legends Hotshot from Cybertron, and this one is hysterical to me because it's like Hotshot got to run with the torch for like 3 years as the Kid Appeal character, and this is the toy that makes it official that he is now passing the torch back to Bumblebee. You got to carry it for a bit. Good job. Time to give it back to the OG. As releases go, it works surprisingly well. Like it's a very weird like precursor to what kind of Bumblebee we were going to get a year later. You know, being a sports car, being more traditionally shaped in robot mode. So for what it is, I think it's an interesting little piece. Like there's a little bit of like incidental history to it. Still not a fantastic figure, but for Legends, it's fine. Remember, we're grading bang for your buck, so a $5 Legends class figure, I can compare to a $20 Voyager class. So yeah, remember those prices. Deluxe Bumblebee, different story. So this one is nice. It's a nice, solid representation of G1 Bumblebee. It's nice and modernized without going to the Volkswagen. You know, it's much more like beach cruiser, like Mini Cooper's level, you know, kind of shape to it. That kind of like little, small sporty car. More importantly, it's just a nice, solid Bumblebee figure. Transforms nicely. I do like the added play feature with the jet ski that transforms into a jetpack. Nice way of making up for the size. Don't you miss Bumblebee toys where they actually compensated for how small they are? I'd say premium. I'd say he's up there. I'd say he's pretty nice for what he is. But the repaint Cliff Jumper. I'm still not sure how I feel about the new silver deco they put on him. Classics was all about this new deco scheme they were coming up with for figures. Bumblebee's white, I think, worked for him. I'm not sure about like the weird silver kind of flame job on Cliff Jumper. Also, this is the first Cliff Jumper to suffer from I'm just a Bumblebee repaint. So he's not as good. He's not as good as the Bumblebee just because he suffers from just lack of attention or effort on Hasbro's part. And it's a solid mold, but it does not do nearly as well as Cliff Jumper, I feel. Also, missed opportunity to do something different, you know? Like they could have remolded that jet ski into something a little more characterful, like a bazooka or something. Missed opportunity. Energon repaint into G1 style Devastator. This was a weird one to pick. This is a weird one to put on this list. They tried. They tried real hard to make that set look more like a traditional Devastator. I do think it comes across better than the original Energon release. It's still just okay. Like there are individual figures in there that are decent. Steam Hammer's weird. Duststorm's mold is weird and kind of generic. Like one of the most generic designs I think Transformers has ever produced. But it's an okay set. Like sold as a set of 5, it's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna put it higher up in the retail end. Just because you get a lot of fun for it because combiner, obviously. But you know, it is very much like we are crowbarring G1 Devastator into this mold. Please, for the love of God, help me. So, interesting one here. Fireflight, who doesn't really have Fireflight's color scheme. There's no aerial bot with beige. It comes across like they really wanted this to be Power Glide, but didn't really have the trademark at the time. And frankly, even Power Glide doesn't really look like this, so that's stretching it a little bit. But as it is, I don't think it's a bad looking figure. Because this is classics and they played around with color schemes, I'm not going to get too hung up on color schemes. I'm just going to judge it by what I see, and that mold itself is actually pretty nice. It does the trick that the large version does to make that smooth jumbo jet mold. That one I like. And you know, the colors aren't bad. Multiple shades of red, the tan and beige kind of works with the red scheme. I'm going to give it credit. I think it's a decent little Legends class toy, and I think it looks good in those colors. So it goes it goes up there. It goes up there in the middle. I talk about this Grimlock a lot because I think it's a very underrated Grimlock toy. When you realize that it is an update of the Pretender Grimlock and not just like a reimagined G1, it is a much better toy experience. Like you learn to appreciate it a lot more that way, I think. And I do really appreciate this Grimlock toy. It's got a very interesting and different transformation. I think it looks good in both modes. It's doing things differently from a traditional Grimlock, but it doesn't look bad. You know, is it the only knock the knocks I would have against it are like, I really wish it was a Voyager. Grimlock at deluxe size just seems wrong. You know? Like, he's big. You know, like, he should not be just a little bit bigger than Bumblebee. He certainly shouldn't be smaller than Optimus. Obviously, it's classics. They were very limited in the sizes that they could actually do, since it was a very short and quickly produced line. But I do think it's a much better toy than people give it credit for. I'll put it up to premium. I still think I like Astro Train's playability better, but I think a lot of people sleep on that Grimlock. especially if you can get it as the overkill repaint. Oof, oof, it's pretty. It's very, very pretty. We're talking 2 Jetfires now. For some weird reason, Hasbro decided that some of the Legends class toys that they produce should be the same characters that they produce for the larger toys. And I, for the life of me, don't understand why. Like, when there is so much room to just do other characters. You know, this could have been any this could have been any old aerial bot. You know, this could have been a different Seeker. Would have been hysterical if this was G1 Thundercracker as Cybertron Thundercracker's mold. No. The mold itself is not one of my favorites out of the Cybertron Legends class. It's okay, but it's not too great. And I feel like Jetfire's really forced into this one. It doesn't feel quite right, you know? You know, 'cause, I'm going to... This one might be our first bargain bin. I think if the base mold was a little bit better, and for some people I think it would be, like, it's okay. It's an okay Legends class mold. I just don't think it looks good in the white. You know, I don't think it looks good in the white. I think it's a little bit too sparse to really play off as Jetfire. Yeah, there's just something about it that's bugging me. There's just something about it that's bugging me. I don't think it's quite a good fit, and there's more clever uses later on that we're going to talk about. Okay, standard Jetfire, however. So this is the Voyager class toy. I've always been weird about this one because, yeah, it's a decent Jetfire toy. I like that it has the helmet to make it look toy accurate. And yeah, it's fine. Like, I like the jump pack is actually like big flip out weapons. That's kind of cool too. But it's just kind of fine. I think it's a very basic kind of jet transformer. Like, I've never been like over the moon about this mold. It's solid, but I don't think it's as great as a lot of people give it credit for. You know, I'll say, like, I'd say top of retail release. It's not bad by any stretch. I think it's just overrated, you know? Moving on from that, we have Leo Prime, repainted from Leo Breaker. The first in what turned out to be a pretty extensive Leo Prime lineage in America. It's a funny concept. I love that someone in 2006 thought to bring over a Japanese Beast Wars character and just do a random repaint of the lion we have. Especially because BotCon would prove later on that, yeah, there's a much more obvious choice in Razor Claw. You could have just done this in the Predacon color scheme and it would have been cool too. I do think it's a neat idea. And honestly, like, that mold is not a bad Legends class at all. It does help that it is very basic Beast style former. But I think it's neat for what it is. For what it is, I think it's neat. And I'm quickly realizing a lot of these might end up in the middle of the bracket, so I don't know how visibility is going to go. We might have to wait till the end of the video to fix that. So we'll go with it for now. We'll see where this turns out. We'll see where this turns up. All right, we're into the Megatrons now, and this brings us to the deluxe Megatron. It's such a weird toy. That 2-pack was so weird. That 2-pack was so weird. You know, okay, so we're going to talk about the Optimus here in a bit, but that Megatron, like, honestly, like, if that Megatron was cast as a different character with a different head, I think I wouldn't have any issue with that. It's just the fact that it's trying to be G2 Megatron, but it's not got the color scheme for it. You know, so it comes across as just like a really weird, random Megatron that really doesn't come from anywhere. But the toy itself is okay. The toy itself is okay. It's got the weird spinny thing, but it's not really getting in the way of the toy in any capacity. So I can give it credit for that. You know, it's not doing anything terribly wrong, but I don't think it's, you know, it's about middle of the road. About middle of the road, right? Not terribly great. The Voyager, on the other hand. The last time we get away with a brand new mold Megatron is a gun in normal size, and don't get into that argument in the comment section. I'm not dealing with it. But point being, this one was really good. See, weirdly enough, I kind of like the splash of color on him. Let's admit, Megatron's color scheme has always been a little bit bare, so I don't mind seeing a little bit of extra flair put to the design every now and then. I think the purple hits, you know? I think the gray and purple works. The bright green, I could take or leave. I don't mind green and purple together. I don't mind green and purple together. Obviously, Constructicons. But the toy itself is good. It's an interesting transformation that I think is fun, despite how much of it is shell. I think I like I like how the scope on it becomes the arm cannon without any part forming. Even the trigger has like an actual a spring to it. Like it actually has a click to it, which is really, really cool. Yeah, he goes Holy Grail. Especially if you start getting into those like show accurate Henkei repaints that they started doing. Ooh, I would even take like the platinum version they did that was like all translucent red in gun mode, because like they got to go ham on the red accents and said, "Oh, yeah, this toy is good. This toy is very good." But then we get to this toy. So, yeah, this is going to be a confusing one for everybody. So, it's Cybertron Optimus Prime's Legends class figure. However, it's been repainted to resemble G1 Motormaster, but it's not named Motormaster because of copyright reasons at the time, trademark reasons rather. No, so they called it Menasor. You recall they did the same thing when it came to the Titanium Rodimus repaint that they did for San Diego Comic-Con. It was Menasor, not Motormaster. And I think the Titanium one is better. We will admit that Optimus, not that great. Extremely limited articulation, kind of clunky. The way the arms fold for the transformation and like rotate around, like I've never been able to pull that transformation off without parts clashing and rubbing very poorly. It's not great. It's not great. And I think this is trying a little bit too hard to look like Motormaster, and it's coming across a little bit iffy. Especially once you get to the vehicle mode and there's just this gray block riding on top of a black truck. Yeah, I'm not big on that one. I'm not big on the base mold, and I admit it's a clever attempt at the color scheme. You know, it's a mold that kind of works for it. I just don't think it was very well executed. Okay, we're into the mini-cons now, so you'll excuse me if I'm going to need a little bit of a cheat sheet to remember their names. We're starting with the Clear Skies team. Now, keep in mind, with all of these Minicon teams, all of these were designed for the Cybertron line, specifically those 2-pack releases that were all repaints. But I remember those being very late in Cybertron's release, so it's very likely those were designed to be released earlier, got delayed, and by the time they were a normal retail thing, the line was concluding, and they didn't have time to actually put all these brand new Minicons out. But the molds existed, so Classics got them instead, so they had to hurry up and slap them into these very random teams. You know, so sometimes it's lucky if they even had any kind of cohesion to them. Like Clear Skies, which does have 2 jets and then a dragon. And we have to go by the fact that they're all flying. Thunderwing is just kind of generic. He's okay for a Minicon. Night Scream, the dragon, is also okay. It's just nice that we're getting some kind of beast representation in the Minicons. I do think Steelwind is a really cool figure. Like, as a Minicon, I do think he's a really neat little piece. I don't think it's necessarily going to put him all that high on the list. You know where they go for, based on what they are. Yeah, I'm going to put it right there. I'm gonna put that team right there. Who's up next? Demolition team. Okay. So Wide Load is the dump truck, and he's fine, albeit with a lack of paint in robot mode. But beyond that, I think he's just a completely fine Minicon. Sledge is a mess. Sledge looks like an erector scent went wrong, and it's a very like there's parts on that toy that are held in just by pegs, and it's not comfortable. It's a toy that's very easy to lose parts on. And then you have Broadside, the tank, and that's probably one of the worst Minicons I've ever seen. Very weird proportions, unpleasantly weird. Very low articulation, even for Minicon standards. The big thing is he has no feet. He has these little nubs he's supposed to balance on. They don't balance. They don't balance. Probably one of my least favorite minicon teams of all time. And I just realized I'm talking about the next team on this list. My preview brought up a completely different one. I try so hard to make sure that these things are synced up so that the one you see on screen is the one I'm actually talking about. But until I double check and realize, oh, it's showing the Dinobots. Oh, great. Great. And I realize it's doing that because things are on the same commands. Okay. Yeah, so we're supposed to be talking about that team. Apologies for that. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. And they're going to the flea market. They're going straight to the flea market. Okay, now can we talk about the Dinobots? Now can we talk about the Dinobots? So, again, good to get beasts in. Good to be able to talk about, you know, like beast minicons being a thing. This team is decent enough. Pterosaur, the Tyranno, that's an okay one. It's doing an interesting and like unique transformation. So it's not doesn't just feel like tiny Beast Wars Megatron. Knockdown does a decent enough job. He's a lot more standard in how he transforms as far as just like how you would expect a figure like that to transform. You know, dino head in the front and all that. And then Swoop does a pretty decent job. Like, considering he's a very flat Pteranodon, he actually does make a decent attempt at transforming. I like that team. I like that team quite a bit. And there is quite a bit of novelty to the fact that they are Dinobots in minicon size. Looking at the minicons that we have in this lineup, I'm trying to decide where exactly they go. I think I'm going to go low premium on those. I think I'm going to go low premium because it's a decent set. It's a decent set. And I do generally like how different it is. Dirt Digger team is another weird one to talk about. So yeah, let's see who we got here. If I got to go to my cheat sheet again. Okay, so we've got Oil Slick, which is the muscle car, and that one's actually kind of neat. He's got like flip out blades instead of hands. So you know he's a bad person in general. Grindor, the monster truck, is actually fairly decent. I actually like him a lot. The team is held down by Dirt Rocket, who is another one that's a little bit awkward. Being a motorcycle is going to do that at that size. But there's just, he gets a little bit weird. I don't think it's enough to detract the team completely, though. I think I like the Clear Skies a little bit better, but I am going to put him in the middle of the retail release. That brings us to the Night Rescue team, and I don't know what about this team is night, other than the cop car is black. So we have Strong Arm, who is the cop car, and that one I'm not a fan of. Yeah, articulation's weird, transformation's weird, but not in a great way. It's just an awkward transformation rather than being like, it's different. And you can enjoy it for being different, but it's different in an awkward way that I don't really go for. I do like Dive Bomb. Dive Bomb's kind of fun. He's a little bit gangly, but I do like the way he works. Firebot is the beast of the team. Oh my god, is he such a good little minicon. Like, him on his own would be one of the best. If he was on his own, he'd be in Holy Grail tier for how good of a minicon he is. But as he stands, he has to compete with these other two. Strong Arm brings the team down a little bit, but I think it's still one of my favorite teams. I think I'd still call it my favorite team. So we're going just a little bit above the Dinobots on that one. And that's going to bring us to our final one, which is the Predator Attack team. Again, now we have normal animals, just normal animals. And we kind of have a similar situation to the Dinobots here, where they kind of work in a similar vein. Dreadwing, the hawk, the eagle, whatever that is, works pretty well. Like, that actually does a pretty decent job of being a transformer, despite being a flat, you know, flying animal. Snarl, the wolf, I actually can't remember if Snarl or Overbite is the wolf. I apologize. It's been a while since I think Overbite is the wolf. He's okay. I don't mind his transformation and how that toy works. It's the cat. He has a very poor transformation. It's just kind of like an ugly, just like an ugly toy in general. So that's gonna dock the team, and it's not like the night attack. It's not like the night rescue team where like one bad egg is not ruining the entire meal. The others on this team are just okay. So I have to so I can't do a lot for them, but I can put them right about there in the middle of the retail release. And that concludes our minicon portion of this countdown. We will now move back into the full-size Transformers with Mirage. I still love this toy. I think of all the classics toys, this is the one that holds up the best. Yes, it's a very gangly, lanky Mirage, but the articulation on it is fantastic. It was the first example of the articulation level we would come to expect from Transformers in the coming years. Like, it set a standard. I equate it to like when the 90s animated Spider-Man toy line came out. You had all of these like web firing style like Spider-Man toys with normal 90s level articulation, but then you just had one Spider-Man whose whole gimmick was heavy articulation. And that's the one everyone wanted because it moved like Spider-Man, It didn't need a fancy gimmick. It just moved really, really well. That was its gimmick. And that's kind of how I felt about Mirage. He doesn't have any tricks to him. He's just really, really good. He's just really, really good. In fact, I would actually say better than Megatron. Oh my god. I'm going to get railed in the comments for that, but I genuinely believe it. I genuinely believe it. I felt his $10 more than I felt the $20 from Megatron. And I really like the Megatron. Obviously, I do. But yeah, that Mirage is immortal. That Mirage defies time. And I love it. Let's talk about Optimus. There's no real debate over what happens to Optimus Prime, right? There's no real debate over what happens to Optimus Prime. He ends up in the flea. Okay. Maybe not flea market tier. Hear me out. This is not a good Optimus Prime toy. The vehicle mode is bowling shoe ugly. And the robot mode itself also has weird issues. The spinning torso gimmick is super weird. You can lock it in place, but it's super weird. And even his head sculpt is odd. For some reason, this Prime's eyes are bugging out. Like he just had something go up his tailpipe or something. I can't, in good conscience, put him in flea market, though, because he's still a decent little action figure Optimus Prime. Like, there's a little bit of redeeming quality there. Just a little bit, He's not a... He's a little bit offensive, but it's not enough for me to completely, like bury the toy. I will give it enough credit to at least put him low end of the bargain bin. And that brings me to the real Optimus Prime of the toy line, the Voyager. This is, again, a mold where people just keep going back to it because it's just a really, really good Optimus Prime. It does have some kibble problems, like the big forearm junk that's hanging off, but ultimately, I think what it's doing is really, really clever. Excuse me, I've been talking for a long time. My voice is starting to give out. But it is trying very hard to do a modernized Optimus Prime, still be the flat-nosed pickup truck, but it's got the wind vane now. It's modern and rounded. And all that's great. I love the wind vane becoming a gun. I love the smokestacks becoming a gun. That's actually a great way of getting around the whole smokestack thing for Prime, because if it's a gun, that means they pop off. So, pass the safety law that way. Also, it just makes a really cool looking gun for Optimus. Yeah, it's a dead solid toy. It's a dead solid toy. I bought a new one earlier this year. Don't regret it. Don't regret it. Still pick it up and mess with it from time to time. Still really, really good. We're back into the Legends class repaints. This is Perceptor, repainted from Cybertron Red Alert's Legends class toy, which is based on his Cybertron Defense version. Is that enough explanation for everybody where this toy came from? I will tell you right now, the toy itself is not good. It is in transformation and in articulation Micromaster level. It is not representative of how the rest of the Legends class toys from Cybertron are. I think it's the worst one of them all. That said, That said, there's something really clever about making him Perceptor. There's something really clever about making him Perceptor, because the head kind of works with the visor in there. And like, yeah, he's got the big thing over his shoulder, which is very Perceptor. It's a blocky design, which is very Perceptor. Oh my god. Okay. I'm going to put it... I don't like this toy, but I'm going to put it above the Menasor and put it at the bottom of Bargain Bin because it's clever. The way they made it is clever. So I'll give it credit for that. Man, we're finally into the Seekers now. And we're doing the 3 that came out under the Classics branding. Obviously, the other 3 came along in a BotCon set, so they are excluded for now. But they're probably all going to end up around the same area. Okay, so let's keep 2006 standards in mind. I know a lot of people are so sick of this one because they released this mold over 30 times, and then they went and based the Earthrise version of Starscream on that mold. So a lot of people are super burned out on it. They've been transforming this toy, for almost 2 decades now. Okay, I will give you all the credit in the world. You are free to dislike this toy because you've just seen it too much. But back then, this was incredible. We had a Seeker mold that could transform with no part form. Well, the guns needed to part form, but that's typical of any Transformer, so I'm not going to hurt it for that. Weird to be talking about Ramjet first, though. I do think it's a really good retool. Obviously, to get, it's probably the right Conehead to go with because it stands out, quite a bit from the other 2. I think it works really, really well. I think the retooling is really good. Where do I put him? He's going up top. Where do I put him? Yeah, I'm going to put him below the Grimlock. I think the Grimlock's a little bit more clever in how he works, which makes him a little bit more fun for me. And that's going to move us into Skywarp. Whoa. What happened? Hang on. I'm getting ahead of myself now. You know what? No. I'm vetoing this order because we're going to talk about the Seekers all at once. Skywarp, same as the first. I do think the color scheme on this one works better than any of the others. So, given the same good transformation and given better colors, I'm going to put Skywarp up there. And then we're going to go right into Starscream, and Starscream's going to go below the 3 because I think, while I appreciate their attempt at modernizing the color scheme for him, I don't think it works quite as well. I think they might have gone a little bit overboard with the reimagining on his deco. Also, the unpainted face really hurts it because that flat gray plastic takes a lot of the detail out. Still a good toy, but the better painted versions that came out in Classics look way better. Now we can go back to Rodimus. I have previously talked about Rodimus as one of the most middle-of-the-road Transformers there ever was. His gimmick is just a launching missile. Typical. His articulation level is kind of typical. He has some back kibble and some decent parts. He's got a few little flip-out gimmick accessories. He is very standard as a Transformer. In the context of the Classics line, I am inclined to put him maybe the higher end of retail release because there is a higher standard of standard here in Classics. You'll notice a lot of the Classics toys are very heavy to the top of this list because Classics was a very solid set of toys. The only ones that are kind of dragging it down are all the repaints from previous years that weren't designed for such things. But they do manage to maintain, a good level of just being fun toys, So I gotta recommend that, even that Rodimus, which I think is middle of the road, is still, in the terms of the Classics line, still very high up there. Okay, now let's get back on the topic. Let's get back onto where we left off. All right. And again, this list is giving me a different order than what I have on my screen. I try, and then it just screws up. Let's talk about the Trypticon. And again, we're talking clever. It's a weird color scheme. Now, here's the thing. I kind of think the colors work on the Scourge design. So I actually am not, I'm actually kind of a fan of this. I think the dragon mode pulls it off better. Clearly it does because it's supposed to be Triptychon. I think this is just a goofy, fun little toy. I put it in the same vein, the same mental state as like Leo Prime, because it's such a shoehorned in thing, but not to the Menasor point where it's just like, I don't think it quite works. More to like, this is now goofy enough for me to really be into. Also, it's just a better toy than what Menasor had. So yeah, Menasor stays where he is. The fun repaints get the party in the retail release section. Brings me to Ultra Magnus, and yeah, it's the same mold as Prime. It really depends on how much you like that deco. For me, I do like what it's done to the standard Ultra Magnus formula. I could do without the blue boots, because like that does break up the white, but also brings him a little bit closer to Optimus, which I think is the wrong direction. Like, I think he should try to avoid looking like Prime in every way. But I'm not going to put it quite as high. I think the mold works really well for Optimus Prime. I am going to knock it just a little bit. Just a little bit. I am a fan of the white Optimus Prime color scheme. I am a fan of just like the repaint Ultra Magnus design. But no, we'll put it there. We'll put it there. And that brings me to the final one in our list, which is Whirl. And Whirl is... The base mold itself is okay. It is very hindered, like the way they engineered it. He has no arm articulation whatsoever, like maybe a little bit outward, but that's it. And it, because they're shrinking down what is a fairly intricate transformation for 2005 into a Legends class toy, that does hurt its function. It's close enough, but it's not terribly great in how it works. And then Whirl is such a weird choice. It's such a left field option, but I guess you had to use some helicopter. It's either him or Blades, right? And, Perceptor kind of took over like the red toy of the wave kind of thing. I don't necessarily think it works. I mean, I think it's okay. Like, it looks fine. The mold's okay-ish, but I don't think it works as well as some of the other ones. Again, it's not fun enough for me to go, oh, yeah, I'm kind of into it. No, it's just kind of there. Feels like he just kind of fills up time. And speaking of time, it's been almost 40 minutes, and now we have finished with the tier list. Let me... Hang on. Let me get the... No, get the right one. Get the right window, so we can show the good people at home what the final list looks like. There we go. Okay, it didn't hurt it too bad. So there you go. I'm actually surprised. I'm actually surprised. Like, I could technically just bump Optimus up to premium. And frankly, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to put Astro Train up to premium too. My list, my rules. I like that toy. But I think the rest is pretty much good where it stands. Yeah, I think Magnus is a little bit bare to go to Holy Grail, but still a great toy. I think that Jetfire is a good figure, but it's also just kind of doing things in a very plain way. The Whirl is almost decent, but it just doesn't quite work well enough for me to go with it. And then yeah, I think that's a good place to end off there. So as usual with these lists, I'm sure I got your favorite in the wrong spot. I'm sure there's going to be a disagreement. You are free to let me know in the comments below. And yeah, there is your list for the day. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.
Analysis complete. Adapting translators to local language.
Are you out there?